Football is a memory machine, an open book you never tire of returning to. Nostalgia is one of sport's most powerful forces, a natural pull that lets everyone revisit the past, the players, the goals, the balls, the moments. A kind of memory hierarchy that builds itself without you even noticing. And in that game of nostalgia, the 2006 World Cup holds a very special place. Many will point to the 1970 World Cup, the stage for legendary matches and the coronation of a team like no other. But the 18th edition, held in Germany, marked an entire generation and signaled the end of another. Call it the recipe for a magnificent competition. Here are the ingredients. The first thing to say about this World Cup is that it brought two generations together, the players of the late 90s and those of the 2000s. A dream blend, a truly royal ensemble, the grand crossroads of dozens of players dripping with nostalgia. Let's go through the teams and the stars who lit up this superb tournament. Germany, playing at home, fields its new generation. Lahm, Podolski, Mertesacker, Schweinsteiger, alongside veterans like Ballack and Miroslav Klose, with the mission of winning the trophy after the final loss to Brazil in 2002. Then, going through the groups, England and their famous golden generation. Sweden with Zlatan, Larsson, and Ljungberg. A romantic Argentina built around Riquelme, Tevez, Saviola, Crespo, Cambiaso, and a very young Messi. The Netherlands of Van der Sar, Sneijder, Van der Vaart, Robben, Van Persie, and Van Nistelrooy. Ivory Coast and the great Didier Drogba. Portugal, somewhere between the twilight of the Figo generation and the emergence of the prodigy Ronaldo. The Squadra Azzurra, rock-solid defensively and armed with an army of magicians, Totti, Del Piero, and Pirlo. Not forgetting the Czech Republic of Petr Cech, Pavel Nedved, and Tomáš Rosický. Ghana's Black Stars with Michael Essien and the young Asamoah Gyan. The mighty Brazil of Ronaldo, Adriano, Kaká, Roberto Carlos, Robinho, and Juninho. Ukraine and Andriy Shevchenko. And Spain, still finding themselves. Torres, Villa, Xavi, Fabregas, Ramos, Puyol, and Raúl, among others. That, in a word, is the exceptional lineup this World Cup had to offer, played out in ideal conditions, with Germany having renovated their stadiums magnificently to host the competition. In terms of technical quality, tactical density, and yes, nostalgia, let's be honest, this tournament was on another level. The second ingredient is perhaps the most important. Throughout the competition, the teams treated us to goals of every kind, stunning individual efforts and breathtaking collective moves alike. Spectacle at every turn. From Philipp Lahm's opener just 6 minutes into the very first match against Costa Rica, to Il Fenomeno's magic against Ghana in the round of 16. Not to mention the tournament's best goal.
Looking for Lampard. Breaks here for Joe Cole. Oh, brilliant! Just brilliant!
Scored by Joe Cole, who at least spared England the embarrassment of being knocked out by Sweden. It was a festival of long-range strikes. Torsten Frings, Kaká, Rosický, the brilliant Deco, even Bakary Kone sent one flying into the top corner. If those goals came in the group stage, the ones that truly live on in memory came later. Bastian Schweinsteiger's magnificent strike against Portugal in the third-place match, and the jewel from Maxi Rodriguez in extra time against Mexico in the round of 16. Argentina, the tournament's best attack, also served up some sublime moments. Most memorably, a Carlos Tevez dribble during their 6-0 demolition of Serbia and Montenegro in the groups. Pure spectacle on every floor of the building, with glimpses of the young Cristiano Ronaldo, the reigning Ballon d'Or holder Ronaldinho, and the last true number 10, Juan Román Riquelme. And yet, despite the spectacle, despite the variety of goals, this World Cup will also go down as one of the lowest scoring in history. Just 2.30 goals per game, the second worst ratio the competition has ever seen. 7 matches ended 0-0, including a France-Switzerland draw that was intense but goalless. The 2006 World Cup marked a turning point, a tactical revolution among the world's biggest nations. Which brings us to point 3. The 2002 World Cup had left scars. Several of the game's biggest names had collapsed in the group stage, in groups that were well within their reach. France, Argentina, Portugal, all eliminated before the knockouts. The quarterfinals featured sides nobody expected to see there: the United States, Senegal, and above all, South Korea and Turkey, who both reached the semifinals. South Korea, playing at home, had knocked out Spain and Italy in matches that were tight, intense, and, let's say it, highly controversial. Even if both sides were eventually eliminated by Germany and Brazil, that 17th edition went down in history as the World Cup of upsets. So in 2006, the big nations came back differently. They barricaded themselves in, they chose caution over creativity, defensive solidity over open football, determined not to repeat the disaster of 4 years before. Italy conceded just 2 goals across the entire tournament, with Gianluigi Buffon at the very top of his game. Brazil conceded barely more. France let in just 3. Portugal the same, if you set aside the beating from Germany in the third-place match. The knockout stage matches were, for the most part, locked tight. Goals were rare because every major nation had responded, and yet the fixtures were enticing. France, Spain, England, Portugal 0-0, Brazil, France 1-0, Germany, Italy 0-0 after extra time, Germany, Argentina 1-1, Portugal, France 1-0. Defense had clearly taken over from attack. Mistrust was the order of the day. Mistrust, defensive tactics, and intensity. The highlight of which was a Portugal-Netherlands match that felt like it came straight from hell. 16 yellow cards, 4 red cards, both teams finishing with 9 men. The Battle of Nuremberg, as it became known. Killer tackles from both sides. Cristiano Ronaldo eventually benched like everyone else. Portugal won 1-0 after a brutal, tense, animosity-soaked match. One bald man. How do you talk about this World Cup without talking about Zinedine Zidane, who had come out of international retirement just months earlier to rejoin the France squad? In the role of the boss, the metronome of French football, number 10 would deliver an absolute masterclass throughout the month of competition. The group stage was laborious for France. 2 draws against Switzerland and South Korea, a win over Togo without Zidane, who was suspended. But the rest of the tournament would leave a permanent mark. In the round of 16, the Spaniards had been happily telling everyone Zidane should retire. Well, perhaps not the best idea they ever had. France won 3-1, Zizou ran the show. In the quarterfinals, no words needed, July 1st, Frankfurt. Him, the ball, and everyone else. France beat Brazil, then eliminated Portugal on a Zidane penalty, then parked the bus all the way to the final. The show had begun. It would end in the saddest and most unforgettable of ways. A mythical Panenka, a headbutt on Materazzi, a missed World Cup. Italy lifted the trophy, their 4th, and Zidane walked away, golden ball in hand, at the very moment he seemed to be walking on water. A farewell as cruel as it was unforgettable. A few numbers to close it out. 0. Goals conceded by Switzerland. They went home on penalties anyway. 1. Ivory Coast's first ever World Cup. 11. Scolari's consecutive wins across 2002 and 2006. A record that won't move anytime soon. 15. Ronaldo's World Cup goals. A record broken by Klose in 2014 with 16. 28. Red cards. 345 yellows. It played elbows out from start to finish. That's this World Cup. A competition that personally marked me deeply. First real memories for a generation too young in '98, and the sadness of a penalty shootout that still stings. If you have ideas for a future video in the same style, drop them below. See you next week.